My name is Octavia McBride-Ahebee. I'm here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the United States. I lived many years throughout Africa, and I'm going to I'm going to do 3 poems. I'm going to start with one. I spent 10 years in Côte d'Ivoire, where my children were born, and when I came back as a result of the civil crisis in 2002, 2003, my daughter was 7, very much a little Ivorian girl. So when she comes back to schooling in Philadelphia, some of her classmates are teasing her because she speaks other languages. She wants to embrace her African panya and all of that. So this poem called Victory Threads was inspired by a response of what she said to a kid. I heard her friends laugh at her, that laugh which is square, that stops at points, never to wonder, only to breathe in base expulsion of incurious air. She had proclaimed in a combined fit of wistfulness and swaggering insolence. She had had combs in Abidjan with names, Akissi, Aou, Abla, Ama, Adjoa, who understood the temperament of each day's hair story, who could dress your head while weaving choruses of victory threads in your brain, preparing you to meet the day, haughty and wholly armored. My second poem is called Preparations for the, thank you guys, Preparations for the Voyage to Lampedusa. And it's inspired by I mean, a lot of times when the so-called migrant crisis is presented to us, when it is in the news, it's just, a boat full of usually young, Black men, as if they're a mass devoid of any humanity. So this poem is told from the voice of a woman in Mali who is preparing her lover to take this voyage, and they're anticipating perhaps he may not make it. So on his body, they're telling who he is, his story. So when he's found, that he is recognized as somebody that was aspirational. I tagged him like a suitcase in our wedding henna and the indigo of our gods, so sand and salt water could not erase him. Using a hand-rolled cone of discarded plastic, I labeled him in Arabic on his forehead with the translated love poems of Rumi. Writing across the arch of each eyebrow, I braided his eyelashes into a wind rose to inform a faltering will where grace blew the hardest. I pierced his ears with Voltaire's call to give ourselves the gift of living well. On the palms of his hands, I rendered in sloppy English the poetry of Lord and Knight. Between the nervous Dogon mask that dressed his breast and the hairy lotus flowers that framed a navel I loved to get lost in, I sung in the double swirl of Earth's only colors, a plea in Italian to be kind. Amid the spiring canals of Sundiata's praise song that ran up and down his legs, front and back, I marked the empty spaces with the tattooed kisses of his children and a P.O. box leading back to Kolakani. On his stained fingernails, I wrote our love dreams, a quartered filled belly of lamb and hibiscus, a muted chest, feces that is thick and whole and free of the world's disdain, a means of stretching our children with ideas. I wrote this in Bambara because it glows in the dark, because it can lift a diminishing resolve from the clutches of a cold night desert, and even dance on death's imminent arrival in the middle of a beautiful sea that will reject him, disguised as a lullaby to remind him at the moment he is embraced in a wet, frothy death hug that this failure is not his, it is not his, it belongs to those who will rescue his body. And then my last poem is entitled Aminata Holds Us All. most of the time my hair is braided. It's been braided for 40 years. I've spent so many times with my African sisters braiding my hair, and it's such a wonderful space to be in. And it's always dialogue. It's always sharing of stories. This one is called Aminata Holds Us All. Aminata, always wearing a sacred lotus behind her ear, told me as she entwined with weaver's precision the temple hair of Indian girls into my new world head view. A luminous batch of premenstrual hair, color 2B, streaked with a girl's rage. Aminata told me as she chewed on licorice root the way my big nanny chewed her red man while rocking her disappointment on her Raleigh back porch. She told me how she crossed the Sahara in a boo-boo, yellow with appetite, sheer enough to seduce wandering genies into numbing her body with storytelling, so the furies of the desert, its infernal and its frigid cousins, would not abuse her body, demean her into drinking her own piss. Aminata whispered as she greased the sorrows of my scalp, how she fled with her escorts, ambition and purpose. They, dressed to the nine in voluminous clarity, trimmed in Venetian trading blades. She fled an old order of her world that just kept breathing. All the while, time barren. She fled in grace and henna-stained feet and a pair of flip-flops open to the world. No track dog sniffing for blood this time, just another kind of beast. Thank you.